Our next guest is a successful business owner, libertarian activist, and media figure. He is the founder and president of You Are the Power, a nonprofit focused on using solutions-oriented activism to grow the liberty movement. So we've got Ambassador Spike Cohen with us right now. Spike, welcome to State of the Nation. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, yeah, we are very happy to have you. And if you're out there listening, go to your open your Twitter up right now and go to @RealSpikeCohen to follow Spike on his social media. So, Spike, I'm looking through your Twitter this morning before the show, and you and I think a lot alike. So I'm just going to ask you, what's the biggest thing on your radar today, this week, right now, going on when it comes to the state of our nation?
I think if I had to pick one single thing I'm the most concerned about, it's what I think is a looming bank failure or series of bank failures that are coming. We've already seen a couple shot across the bow with the failure of Silicon Valley Bank and others. And there have so far only, and I say only in quotes, only been 3 bank failures. But those 3 bank failures amount to almost the entire value of all of the bank failures that happened in 2008, just to put it in perspective. So this next cascade that's going to come is going to be exponentially worse than the last one. Basically, all the numbers you remember from 2008, just add a 0 to the end, and that's what we're looking at. And I don't know if it's going to happen in a matter of weeks, months, or years, but all of the conditions are in place for it. And when it happens, it's going to be a big one.
You know, Spike, we want to hear about You Are the Power. Tell us exactly what this is, and also define the liberty movement specifically, and why isn't that understood as not requiring a movement per se?
Well, so what I call the liberty movement is basically a very broad umbrella term to refer to people who are actively working to bring freedom to the country, to their communities, to their families, and to themselves. What You Are the Power is doing is we're combining 2 dynamics that I saw. I saw a lot of people who were frustrated at a lack of movement in the liberty movement. And I saw a lot of people that were hurting as a result of the consequences of a lack of freedom in this country. And I thought, well, why don't we pair those things together? Why don't we find people who are in need of help, who are being, abused and neglected and mistreated by their local governments? Why don't we get those people who are looking for something to do and organize them around getting justice for those people and accountability for the people in power that are doing it to them? And let's grow something out of that. And that's what You Are the Power is. We've been around for just about a year now. We launched last May. And we have already had some incredible successes. So I'm very excited about the future.
You know, I want to know, Spike, why are so many Americans seemingly tolerant over what amounts to tyranny? That's what I want to know.
I think that most people, it's interesting. Most people don't think they are comfortable with tyranny. They're solidly in belief that tyranny is the responsibility of one half of the ruling class. And the only people that can save them from tyranny just so happen to be the exact other half of the ruling class. And that's how we end up with the 2-party system. That's how we end up with people who, are very angry about infringements on their rights in one area and then are pushing very heavily for the government to infringe on rights or have additional powers in another area. Basically, most people are just falling for a good cop, bad cop routine. I think broadly speaking, people often associate freedom or quote unquote too much freedom with being unsafe and not having protection and things being too wild and unregulated. But the reality is the chaos that they fear is really the status quo. That's what we have now. And it's as a result of there being too much power in the hands of too few people. And I agree. I think that tyranny is the problem, and liberty is not only better and freer and more prosperous, but I think it's safer too. I trust you to make decisions for yourself far more than I trust the sociopaths who are in charge right now.
Yeah, really. I was watching John Lovell do a bit of a talk about open carry last night, and he had a few people in the studio, and he was asking them all, how do you feel when you see someone open carrying? And it was, it's a 2A channel, so of course they're all going to say stuff like this, but I think it resonates with a lot of people. They were like, if I see someone open carrying, I feel better. I feel a little bit safer. I know that's not a criminal, because a criminal would certainly not be open carrying. And, I know that there's someone else in the room who's, willing to put themselves on the line to save others or themselves, So
Absolutely.
what do you think? Yeah. So you flagged up something really important here. When Lynn asked the question, why do so many Americans tolerate tyranny? And you're saying they basically can't recognize it because they only see it through the lens of the power politics, the two-party system. Clearly, that's something that's important to you and to your organization. Talk to us a little bit about that, the importance of having a more nuanced view and understanding the context with which that sort of dialectic is paraded around in front of us is the only option.
Yeah, so to be clear, You Are the Power is a nonpartisan organization. So we have libertarians, Republicans, Democrats, people that aren't involved in that, aren't even, party registered, independents, and all sorts of other things. So I'm speaking individually when I talk about partisan type stuff. I personally am a partisan to the Libertarian Party. But frankly, until we break up the two-party system, until the American voter has a variety of competing parties to choose from that are viable, the reality is it's going to be really easy for Republicans and Democrats to continue hitting us with the good cop, bad cop routine. And it's important to understand how that works. So if I'm running for office as a Republican or a Democrat, it's important that I play good cop to my base, but it's more important that I play bad cop to the other base. If you've ever listened to, let's say you're a Republican and you've heard certain Democrats speak, and it almost seems like they're trying to make you angry. They are. And it's very important. And the Republican is trying to make the Democrats angry. And the reason for that is so that when you think of not voting for, your so-called lesser evil candidate, you remember that, man, if you don't vote for them, that other guy might win and he's terrible. And the fact is, I mean, when it comes to raising the debt ceiling, when it comes to running up, massive amounts, trillions of dollars in debt, when it comes to expanding every sector of government, Democrats and Republicans work hand in hand together all day long, but they also work hand in hand together in convincing you that you have to vote for one side to keep the other side from, not being the major party. And the thing to remember about good cop, bad cop routines, they're both cops. You're being scammed.
Ambassador Spike. And, I have a question for you. I looked at you have a slew of dates where you'll be. Tell us about what's happening. Tell us about Freedom Fest. What's going on with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be in Memphis from July 12th to the 15th at the, I believe it's called, I believe I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Renaissance Convention Center in Memphis, Tennessee. It's going to be me and literally hundreds of other speakers and panelists. Freedom Fest is a gigantic event that happens every year. This year it's going to be in Memphis. It's going to have me, Kennedy from Fox Business. It's going to have Enes Freedom, Tulsi Gabbard, Matt Taibbi, a ton of other big names in and across the freedom-loving world. And it is basically a giant event that goes on for the better part of a week that features all sorts of incredible panels, concerts, stand-up routines. And I mean, it's literally anything that you can imagine that could happen at a convention happens at Freedom Fest. It is one of it's basically my favorite time at any of these conventions all year long. I cannot wait to be there, and it's awesome that we're going to be having it in Memphis. I think it's the first time Freedom Fest has ever been in Memphis, and if anyone wants to find out more about the speakers and the lineup and everything else, you can go to freedomfest.com. But it is a really cool thing, and I look forward to it every year. I'm especially looking forward to it this year.
I gotta tell you, Lynn, I was bummed I didn't get to go last year. I was kind of covering it, from here and wishing I was there. So this year, I'm gonna do my best to be there. I would love to be there for this year.
That sounds like we should all be there, actually. Let's finish up with Ambassador Spike. I have a question. I'm very serious about this. Answer this any way you want. Sure. Who's done less for America, Democrats or Republicans?
I mean, it depends on how you want to look at that. I would say I couldn't even really tell you. I mean, I guess technically the Democrats have been around longer, but I'm not. I think really the question is who has run up more debt to the American people, and it's pretty even. It's pretty darn even between Democrats and Republicans. Every time a Democrat president breaks a record, here comes a Republican president to say, hold my beer and increase that record. And then here comes a Democrat to replace him and run up the record even more. I remember when George Bush ran up more debt in 2 years than Ronald Reagan had in his entire time in office. And people said, oh, this is the most horrible thing ever. And then, of course, Barack Obama ran that up in 1 year. Donald Trump ran it up in the first 10 months in office. And Joe Biden has certainly continued to continue that record of running up more debt. So, I mean, the way I look at it is every news cycle, it just gets worse and worse because Democrats and Republicans, after one more election cycle of not having any real viable competition between the two of them, or as an alternative to the two of them, realize that they can screw us over even more. And we're not going to break that cycle until we can get more viable options. I mean, it's like with anything. If you only had two choices, they're not going to be very good ones. We need competition, like in all things.
Hold my beer politics. I love it. I think we just coined a new term here. It's like I don't know if the bar is getting higher or lower. I guess it depends what side of Washington, D.C. you're sitting on. Okay. We're one more question real quick here before we got to let you go. The system, the state, the media, if you will, all these various cartels, they've really gone out of their way to alienate everybody who is not an extreme progressive. So I'm kind of noticing right now that center right, center left, independent, libertarian, everybody in these categories, which when you put them together, I would argue is the greater part of our population than any other part, hard left, hard right, are all getting basically shamed and called names and feeling the polarization of the progressive left right now. Do you think this will drive a huge group of people to the Libertarian Party? That seems to be something that happens when this is the political climate.
It will draw them away from the status quo. It is incumbent upon the Libertarian Party to bring them to the Libertarian Party. I'm not someone who thinks that we automatically win the support and votes of people that are sick and tired of the status quo, because frankly, they could go to anyone. And if we don't treat them as, people that deserve to know what our plan, our alternative is, and just assume that we deserve their vote, like how the Republicans, Democrats have assumed that they deserve their vote, frankly, they should go to someone else. So no, but I do think that it leaves them wide open. More Americans are frustrated with the status quo than ever before. It is upon us as libertarians in the Libertarian Party and us as libertarians in just speaking broadly about the liberty movement to bring them to liberty, to show them that this is not a coincidence that these things happen. This happened because power was being taken out of their hands and put in the hands of people who did not know their needs, who did not care about their needs, and were looking to only enrich themselves and the corporate oligarchy that put them in office. And the only way that we're ever going to end that is to take that power and put it back in their hands where it always belonged. And when we do that, then we stand a chance of bringing them into the liberty movement and into the Libertarian Party.
There you go. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. That's Spike Cohen. Spike, thank you so much for joining us. We will look forward to having you back on State of the Nation very soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll see you at Freedom Fest. Thank you for having me on.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to look for you. We'll see you there. All right.
Thanks,
Real
man.
Spike Cohen on Twitter. Everybody get on over there. SpikeCohen.com. You are the power. Wow, that was a good one, Lynn. That was a good one. We're going to have Spike back on soon.